The Afghan sun hung like a molten coin in the sky, bleaching the Helmand Valley into a cracked, colorless wasteland. Sergeant Daniel "Danny" Hayes squinted against the glare, his fingers absently rubbing the frayed edge of his dog's leash. Beside him, Rex, 85 pounds of muscle, scars, and unconditional loyalty, panted softly, his pink tongue lolling between teeth that had once torn through an insurgent's arm to save Danny's life. "You smell something, boy," Danny murmured, his voice barely audible over the dry wind. Rex's nostrils flared. His ears, normally relaxed, pricked forward like radar dishes. A ripple traveled down his black and tan spine, the fur along his shoulders rising just enough to notice. Danger. Danny didn't need words. 3 years of war had welded their bond into something deeper than language. He felt Rex's tension in his own muscles, the way his own pulse kicked up when the dog's did. His grip on the leash tightened. Then, a metallic click. Rex's growl was low, vibrating through the leash into Danny's palm. Not the playful rumble he made when wrestling with the squad, but the sound a German shepherd makes when death is near. The ambush hit like a thunderclap. Gunfire erupted from the crumbling mud brick houses to their left. Bullets chewed the dirt at their feet, kicking up geysers of dust. Danny's training took over. "Cover!" as his squad scattered. But Rex didn't run. The dog planted himself between Danny and the gunfire, his body a living shield. "Fast!" Danny barked, the attack command. What happened next was poetry in motion. Rex launched forward like a black and tan missile, his powerful hind legs propelling him toward the nearest insurgent. The man barely had time to widen his eyes before 90 pounds of fur, fangs, and fury slammed into his chest. The scream that followed was cut short as Rex's jaws locked onto the man's wrist, the crunch of bone audible even over the gunfire. Danny moved in sync, firing controlled bursts to cover his dog. This was their dance, Rex the blade, Danny the hand that wielded him. Then, the world exploded. A RPG round hit the Humvee behind them. The concussion wave lifted Danny off his feet, slamming him into the dirt like a rag doll. His ears rang, smoke burned his lungs. Through the haze, he saw his rifle, 3 feet away, the barrel bent. Blood seeping through his pant leg. Shrapnel. Rex, staggering but alive, shaking off debris like a boxer between rounds. The dog limped toward him, whining. Danny tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't obey. His vision tunneled. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Rex standing over his body, lips peeled back in a snarl, daring the world to take one more step toward his human. The acrid stench of burning metal and cordite clung to the battlefield like a funeral shroud. Rex dragged his wounded hind leg through the debris, each step sending jagged bolts of pain up his flank. The shrapnel embedded in his fur throbbed, a dull, persistent fire, but he ignored it. His nostrils flared, sifting through the cocktail of smoke, blood, and sweat, until he found the one scent that mattered. Danny lay motionless in the dirt, his helmet askew, his rifle still slung across his chest. Rex limped faster, his claws scraping against loose rocks. When he reached his handler's side, he nosed Danny's cheek, the way he always did to wake him for morning patrol. No response. Rex whined, high and desperate, and licked Danny's face, once, twice, leaving streaks in the dust and dried blood. The taste of salt and gunpowder filled his mouth. Still nothing. He pressed his ear against Danny's chest. A heartbeat. Faint. But there. Behind him, boots crunched on gravel. "Jesus! Hayes is gone, man. We gotta move." Rex's head snapped up. 2 soldiers approached, their faces streaked with soot and exhaustion. The taller one, Corporal Vasquez, reached for Danny's vest. A sound ripped from Rex's throat that wasn't quite a growl and wasn't quite a scream. It was the noise a German shepherd makes when its soul is being torn in half. His lips peeled back, revealing teeth stained pink with enemy blood. Try it. Vasquez froze. Fuck, he's not letting go. For 3 days, Rex held his vigil. Day 1. At dusk, a jackal slunk from the rocks, drawn by the scent of blood. Rex's snarl sent it fleeing with its tail between its legs. When night fell, he curled himself around Danny's head, his body radiating heat into his handler's cooling skin. The Afghan nights were brutally cold. Rex knew this from the way Danny always zipped his sleeping bag to his chin. A medic tried to approach at dawn. Rex chased him off, his bark sharp as gunfire in the still morning air. Day 2. His wound festered. Flies clustered around the shrapnel, their buzzing an incessant torment. Rex snapped at them until his jaws ached. At high noon, vultures circled overhead. Rex stood on trembling legs and howled, a sound so raw it made the surviving soldiers pause their retreat preparations to look up. When a scorpion skittered too close to Danny's outstretched hand, Rex crushed it under his paw without breaking eye contact with the horizon. Day 3. Rex's tongue lolled from dehydration, his ribs pressed against his skin like knife blades. Still, he refused the canteen a private slid toward him. Danny always drank first. At sunset, new voices echoed through the valley. Rex bared his teeth, ready to fight again, until he caught a whiff of pine soap and gun oil, a scent buried deep in his memory. Braver Hund. The words hit Rex like a physical force. His ears pricked. His tail, stiff for 72 hours, gave a single, hesitant wag. Jason Hayes knelt in the dirt, his uniform streaked with travel grime, his eyes red-rimmed. He smelled like Danny, same shampoo, same chewing gum brand, but with an undercurrent of grief so potent even a human could taste it. "Mission's over, boy," Jason whispered, his voice cracking. He extended a trembling hand. "Let's bring him home." Rex studied Jason's face. The same stubborn chin, the same scar above the left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. The eyes, God, the eyes were identical. A decision. With a final lick to Danny's still fingers, Rex stood. He limped to Jason's side and pressed his muzzle into the man's palm, transferring his duty. As the medics finally lifted Danny's body, Rex leaned against Jason's leg, his entire body shaking. Not from exhaustion, from relief. The morning air at Joint Base Meyer Henderson Hall hung heavy, with the scent of freshly cut grass and gun oil. Rex sat at perfect attention beside the flag-draped casket, his newly groomed fur glinting mahogany in the sunlight. The K9 service vest across his back, custom-fitted to accommodate his healing shrapnel wounds, bore 3 new additions. 1. Sergeant Danny Hayes' name tape stitched above his own 2. A combat action badge pinned near his shoulder, 3. The unit patch Danny had sewn on by hand the night before their last patrol. The crowd of mourners whispered as they took their seats. Rex ignored them. His ears didn't twitch at the sobbing. His tail didn't wag at the murmured condolences. He remained a statue of military discipline, eyes locked forward, just as Danny had trained him. Then the guns fired. The 21-gun salute cracked the air like thunder. A woman in the front row gasped. A baby cried. Rex didn't blink. The explosions were nothing compared to the RPG that had taken Danny down. His only movement, a slight tightening of his jaw muscles, visible only to Jason, who stood rigid at his side. As the last echo faded, a young private approached with the folded flag. Rex's nostrils flared. Danny's scent, faint but unmistakable, lingered in the fabric's fibers. When Jason accepted the triangle of stars, Rex lifted his muzzle and licked the man's trembling fingers. "Your brother was my mission. Now you are." The gesture wasn't lost on the veterans in attendance. Hardened Marines wiped their eyes. A colonel's wife pressed a lace handkerchief to her mouth. That night in the barracks, Jason found Rex exactly where he knew he would be. Curled in a tight ball on Danny's bunk, nose buried in the unwashed ACU shirt he'd pulled from the laundry bin. The dog didn't lift his head as Jason entered, just whined deep in his chest, a sound that vibrated through the springs of the bed. Jason sat beside him, running calloused fingers over the scars on Rex's flank. "Yeah," he whispered, his voice raw from a day of forced composure. "I miss him too." Rex exhaled sharply through his nose, Danny's shirt puffing up slightly with the breath, and finally looked at Jason. In the dim glow of the barracks nightlight, his eyes held the same expression they had in Afghanistan. "I failed him." "Hey!" Jason cupped the dog's muzzle, forcing eye contact. "You stayed. That's all he ever asked." A shudder ran through Rex's body. Then, for the first time since the funeral began, he broke protocol. The German shepherd crawled into Jason's lap, all 85 pounds of him, and buried his face in the crook of the man's neck. His entire body trembled. Hot, wet streaks darkened Jason's dress blues, where Rex's eyes leaked silent tears. Jason didn't push him away. He wrapped both arms around the dog and let his own tears fall into Rex's fur. On the wall above them, Danny's shadow box gleamed, his medals, his rank, his dog tags hanging from a chain. The last photo showed him laughing as Rex licked his face during a rare snow day in Germany. Neither soldier nor dog looked at it. They didn't need to. The farmhouse porch creaked under Jason's boots as he stepped into the violet dusk, a bottle of cheap beer dangling from his fingers. 3 months since Arlington. 92 days of waking to the same nightmare. The smell of burning Humvee tires, the weight of Danny's dog tags in his palm, the silence where his brother's laugh used to be. Behind him, the click, click, click of claws on hardwood announced Rex's approach. The dog moved differently now, no longer the razor-edged military precision of his war days, but something looser, slower, more deliberate. Jason didn't turn. He knew exactly what he'd see. Rex's muzzle gone gray around the edges, like frost creeping across a window pane, the jagged scar along his flank where Afghan shrapnel had bitten deep. Those amber eyes, still sharp, still seeing too much. The German shepherd settled against Jason's leg with a quiet huff, his warmth bleeding through the fabric of Jason's jeans. Together they watched the sun bleed into the Kentucky horizon, painting the soybean fields in liquid gold. Then Rex stiffened. His head lifted, his nostrils flared. Jason followed his gaze to the tree line where fireflies had begun their evening dance. Nothing moved but the wind through the cornstalks. "He's not coming back, buddy," Jason whispered, rubbing the spot between Rex's ears that always made the dog's hind leg twitch. Rex turned, slow, deliberate, and licked the salt from Jason's cheek. Then, with infinite care, he rested his heavy head on Jason's knee. The message thrummed between them, wordless but clear. "I know, but I am." Midnight, the witching hour. Jason woke screaming, his sheets soaked with sweat, his hands clawing at an enemy only he could see. Gunfire. The stench of burning flesh. Danny's voice calling his name. A cold nose pressed against his palm. Rex stood at attention beside the bed, Danny's dog tags clamped gently in his teeth. The metal gleamed in the moonlight, spilling through the curtains. Jason's breath hitched. He hadn't even realized he'd been digging his nails into his palms hard enough to draw blood. The ritual was always the same. 1. Rex would wait until Jason's breathing slowed. 2. He'd drop the tags into Jason's shaking hands. 3. Then he'd circle 3 times before lying across Jason's feet. A living anchor tonight. Something changed. As Jason reached for the tags, Rex pulled back. For one heart-stopping moment, the dog just stared at him with those knowing eyes. Then, clink. Rex dropped something else onto the mattress. A worn tennis ball, its fuzz matted with dirt and saliva. His favorite. The one Danny had thrown for him every evening after drills. Jason's vision blurred. He crushed the ball to his chest, inhaling the ghost of his brother's laughter trapped in the rubber. Rex watched him for 3 steady breaths before climbing onto the bed, something he'd never dared do with Danny, and curling his entire body around Jason's shaking form. The message was clearer than any words. Play. Remember. Live. Dawn found them on the back porch again, dew glittering on the grass like scattered diamonds. Jason held 2 mugs of coffee, one for himself, one placed carefully on the floor beside Rex. The dog sniffed it politely before ignoring it, just as he had every morning since Jason brought him home. "Danny always let you drink his," Jason would tease, though they both knew the truth. Rex had only ever pretended to sip, humoring his handler's joke. A breeze ruffled Rex's fur as the sun crested the hills. Somewhere in the distance, a tractor coughed to life. Normal sounds. Peaceful sounds. Jason pulled a crumpled envelope from his pocket, the last letter Danny had sent, still unopened. His fingers trembled as he tore the seal. Rex whined, low and soft, pressing his shoulder against Jason's calf. The letter contained just 5 words. "Take care of my dog." Jason laughed, a wet, broken sound, as Rex licked the tears from his stubbled chin. Above them, a hawk circled on thermal winds, its shadow gliding across the fields like a blessing. The morning mist clung to Arlington National Cemetery like a widow's veil, softening the edges of white marble headstones that stretched toward the horizon in perfect military formation. Jason Hayes' boots sank slightly into the damp earth as he approached the 2 newest graves, freshly dug, the dirt still dark and rich against the manicured grass. He carried 3 things. 1, a folded flag, the one from Danny's funeral, kept pristine in a shadow box for years. 2, a weathered tennis ball, fuzz long gone, teeth marks fossilized into the rubber. 3, a dog collar, the metal tag reading, Rex, USMC K9, if found return to SGT-D Hayes. The first grave marker gleamed in the weak November sun. SGT Daniel R. Hayes, U.S. Marine Corps, Kia, Afghanistan. Loyal beyond duty. The second, placed exactly 12 inches apart, close enough to touch, just as they'd been in life. Rex K9, warrior beloved comrade. He stayed. Jason knelt between them, his bad knee protesting. At 42, his body bore the map of his grief, the tremor in his hands from too many sleepless nights, the scar along his temple where he'd once punched a mirror after a nightmare. He arranged his offerings with ceremonial care. The flag tucked against Danny's headstone, the collar draped over Rex's, the tennis ball placed precisely between them. Then his hands, usually so steady, betrayed him. The first tear hit the tennis ball with an almost audible plink, followed by another, and another. Jason didn't wipe them away. Let the earth have them. Let the grass drink his sorrow and grow greener for it. The wind picked up suddenly, not a gust, but a caress, lifting the hair at Jason's collar. It carried the faintest traces of gun oil, Danny cleaning his rifle on the barrack steps, dog treats, the bacon-flavored ones Rex would sell his soul for, pine soap, their shared childhood home. Then, a sound. Not the mournful cry of the cemetery's resident hawks, not the distant hum of DC traffic, but a single joyful bark, crisp as the day Rex had chased his first tennis ball across Fort Bragg's training field. Jason's head snapped up. 20 yards away, near a towering oak, 2 figures stood bathed in golden light. 1. Danny, in full-dress blues, his smile exactly as Jason remembered, the left dimple deeper than the right, too. Rex, young again, coat glossy, black and tan, tail wagging so hard his entire back end swayed. The dog darted forward, kicking up phantom leaves as he ran, not toward Jason, but past him, to the fresh grave. Rex circled once, then plopped down directly atop his own resting place, tongue lolling as if to say, "Silly humans, you buried me where I already was." Danny followed, pausing to ruffle Rex's ears before standing at attention beside his own headstone. He saluted Jason, not the stiff formality of a military funeral, but the lazy two-fingered flick he'd always used when teasing his little brother. Jason's breath left his body in a rush. He blinked. Gone. Just the oak tree. Just the graves. Just the tennis ball now slightly damp where Rex's spectral saliva might have landed. 3 hours later, the cemetery caretaker found 2 empty whiskey miniatures neatly lined up beside Danny's stone. A perfect paw print pressed into the fresh dirt over Rex's grave. A single dog hair caught on the collar's buckle, golden in the sunlight, though Rex had been dark, and carved into the back of Rex's headstone, fresh, as if done with a combat knife, 3 words: Good dog. DH.